Welcome on in, episode 26 of the Talking Friars podcast. I'm your host, Ben Fadden here. No Jacob today, but this is a very exciting series to get into. The Padres really needed this series sweep here. I'm coming to you live Sunday after the Padres finished off their sweep, went the Cincinnati Reds. Just an amazing series all around. There were contributors that, were big parts in wins this weekend that were struggling or they were on the bench and had to come off it because of an injury. The bullpen stepped up pretty well. The Nelson Lamet looked great on Sunday. So we'll get to all that. But first off, let's start here with game one of this series. Again, Padres sweep. Like I said, this was game one, reopening day in San Diego. The crowd was packed, over 40,000 people. They were really excited. These fans here in San Diego, obviously we wanted to have a winner. I've never, obviously in my lifetime, never experienced the Padres going to the World Series, never experienced them going to the NLCS, nothing like that. But this felt like a playoff atmosphere. And game one was great. It was great all through, pretty much. I know they got hit through like 5 innings, but they were great pretty much. The game was great, through 8 innings, and then in the top of ninth it got weird, and then in the bottom of the ninth it was like, holy cow, one of the best wins of the year. So this game, I mean, it had everything. Wade Miley pitched great. He was no hitting the Padres, through 5 innings. It seemed like he had everything working. He obviously had a no hitter earlier in the year. He ends up going 7+ innings, 102 pitches, 5 strikeouts. He gives up 2 runs on solo homers from Fernando Tatis Jr. and Manny Machado. That's one of the things I was saying why this game seemed really well, especially for reopening day. You had Joe Musgrove on the mound for the Padres. He pitched amazing. And then your 2 stars, your two faces of the franchise go deep, and you go up 2-0 going into the ninth, and it just looked, with Mark Melancon on the mound, the best closer in the league this year, it looked perfect. Going into Joe Musgrove's performance, he goes 94 pitches, 7 innings. He only had 2 strikeouts, but he was getting early outs, ground balls, flyouts, really pitching to contact. 4 hits, didn't give up any runs, just a brilliant 7-inning shutout performance from Musgrove. And I'm pretty sure that this was one of his highlights of the year. Obviously, the no-hitter is there, but this was one of the highlights of the year because of the circumstances. You're going into Petco Park, back to your home. You pitch really well there, but now you have a packed stadium for the first time in your Padres career, and it seemed like he flourished off of it. And so that was great to see. And then in this ninth, let's go to this ninth inning. Padres are up 2-0. It was a story. There was pretty much 3 stories here. Like I mentioned, Tatis and Manny homer, Musgrove with the big 7-inning shutout. Everything was looking great. You had Mark Melancon on the mound. He had 19 saves going in, I think, on Thursday. So it was like, great, Padres win. Great start to the series after getting swept in Colorado. But then it went all haywire. Melancon gives up 4 runs, gives up the pinch hit single, and then the very next pitch, Jonathan India hits the 2-run homer. It just did not look great. Melancon, obviously, maybe it was a little bit of fatigue because of how much he's pitched this year, but I think it was just an off night. He hasn't pitched in front of a full Petco Park crowd before, at least in a Padre uniform. So maybe that was one of the reasons. I think you just, pencil it in as one of those off nights for Melancon. But the offense picked him up. But down 4-2 after that India home run, I was keeping score of this game at my house, and it was definitely, when India hit the home run, my reaction was like, what the heck's going on? Are you kidding me? Like, because of how good Melancon's been this year, it was just so surprising to see him give up 4 runs. He usually saves games, 10-pitch inning, gets the save, game over. Padres going in the clubhouse, getting ready to go home. But that wasn't the case. He just struggled. He goes 30 pitches, doesn't even make it out of the inning, 2/3 of an inning. Obviously, that big 2-run home run to India leaving pitches over the middle. He wasn't throwing, strikes all the time. A lot of deep counts in that ninth inning. 3 balls to Eugenio Suarez, 3 balls to Barnhart, 3 balls to Kyle Farmer, 3 balls to Stevenson, the pinch hitter, and then obviously first pitch the India homer. So he just wasn't consistent in the strike zone. So that was definitely a reason. And more pitches he threw, the more tired he got. And so 4 runs there, but then the offense. I mean, I'm sorry, if you're a Padre fan and you were optimistic, I was saying to myself, keep the faith. But I'm sorry, if you're a Padre fan and you were optimistic going into the bottom of the ninth inning, then I'm gonna take my cap off to you, because Fernando Tatis Jr. wasn't due up. He was the final out of the eighth. Machado came up. He works the walk, but then Meyer strikes out and Hosmer comes up, and it's all on sports talk radio, on pregame and postgame shows, during the broadcast, during the game when you're watching the game. We've just seen how much Eric Hosmer has struggled, and so you weren't going to be very positive, going into that at bat in the ninth, because this guy's Mr. Ground Out to second base. Now, in April, right, the Dodger series, he had a lot of clutch moments. I gave him the nickname Mr. Clutch. I'm sure a lot of other people in San Diego did that. But just the way that it's been going, it's been a lot of ground balls to the right side. I'm sure a lot of fans, thousands of fans there, were like, oh, here comes a double play with Manny on first base. Perfect doubles play situation, but Manny then steals second. And then Hosmer goes absolute bridge, 2-run game tying homer to right. It was one of those moments where it's like, are you kidding me? He really did that? Just from all the, reasons that I just said about how much he struggled. And, it just seemed like it was the time that he was going to ground out to second again, just because that's his swing. He wasn't, it's not like he was having great at bats going into it, but he's Mr. Clutch, and he stood up, and he definitely shut up all those Hosmer haters. Now, I'm not a Hosmer hater. You realize that he hasn't really performed up to his expectations in a Padre uniform, but he's one of those guys that I want up at the plate, in the clutch. Fernando Tatis Jr., for me, he isn't really one of those guys right now. He's not at the very top of the list, I would say. I would say Grisham or Cronenworth is up there. Hosmer's up there. Tatis is up there, but he's not number one, because he has a big weak spot in pitchers, and that's low and away on, sliders or curveballs down and away that he usually swings through all the time. And so if a pitcher, does his work, does his preparation, and he gives up, that he, pitches Tatis like that to Tatis's weaknesses, I'm sorry, I don't think Tatis is going to come through. The grand slam he hit against the Mets, what was that, last weekend? That was great, but that was a pitch that was leaked over the plate. Now, if that pitch was, down and away, that wouldn't have happened. You've seen so many times, if you watch every Padre game, Tatis strikes. When he does strike out, it's usually either up and in on a fastball, or it's a slider low and away that he just flails at. So Hosmer's definitely right up there at the top of the list of guys that I want up there in a situation like that. Down by 2, you have a runner on, you have a home run that can tie it, or like in the Dodger series at home, that Friday night game, the first Padre Dodger game this year, where Manning's on third, down by 1, can Hosmer come through? And he did. He's one of those guys that I definitely want up there, and he came through with the 2-run homer. And then Victor Caratini, he's definitely been better than I think anyone would have expected, and I think that includes AJ Preller and Josh Stein, Fred Ullman, and those guys in the front office, and Peter Seidler and guys like that. And he definitely had his signature Padres moment. His signature moment before this was the grand slam in Colorado, which led to a win on one of the doubleheaders, I believe. But his real signature moment here, walk-off homer, pitch, that leaked on the inside part of the plate. Caratini turns on it, and like Don Orsillo said, it was a great call. Hits the ball into a sea of San Diegans. It was truly When you're watching, the different, camera angles that MLB has or the Padres had, whether that was maybe the ballpark cam on MLB Network or coming right out of the tunnel to the left of the Padres dugout and seeing all the players get, pumped up, seeing Tommy throw his bat and just everyone pumped up for Caratini like that. Blake Snell throwing the bubble gum. It's one of those moments that it's one of the best games of the year for the Padres, and it's definitely going to be up there. And if the Padres keep playing well like this, I think the biggest part of that win was that it got this team rolling. You got swept by Colorado. You needed that win just to start off the series. Obviously, like I said before the series, you wanted a series win. But they got more than a series win. Obviously they sweep, but this was a great game to get the ball rolling and definitely, get momentum the rest of the series. You had Darvish pitching, or Darvish coming up in the series opener against the Dodgers. So you think you have a good chance of winning that first game. But this was a first game in this series. That was a great, great win for the Padres there. And the walk-off, Joe Musgrove was seen, giving Melanson, a pep talk or just saying, keep your head up. And Melanson looked like he was crying a little bit. And, I felt for him because, he's pitched so well. You want to pitch well in a full sellout crowd. Petco Park, full reopening in the first game. And he didn't. But Caratini picked him up, and Melanson, I think, had some motivation the rest of the series. And so the rest of the series, game 2, Friday night, this was another, good possibility for the Padres to win, just considering that the Red starting pitcher was Tony Santillan. Now, I'm a big, diehard Padre fan, a big baseball fan. I have MLB TV. I pay attention to everything around the league. MLB Network's on constantly. But I've never heard of Tony Santillan. He came in for Sonny Gray, I believe, when he got hurt. But he's not someone that you know. And so you feel confident going into the game that the Padres would be able to tack on some runs and, continue that momentum that they had Thursday. And that's exactly what happened. This was the Will Myers comeback game, as I said in the pregame thoughts prior to Saturday's game. This was, Will Myers' signature game this year, right? He just amazing game for him. Batting in the 6th hole, homers, just a bullet down the left field line in the Western Metal Building. And then the second at bat, he homers again, this time to pretty much center field. And then you were waiting to see if he could hit a third one. And I don't know if that's been done at Petco since Christian Villanueva did it against, I think, Colorado. That one year he was at third base for us, number 22, if you remember him. And he didn't do it. He nearly did it. He doubled off the right center field wall. It nearly went out. I didn't think it was going to get out sitting at Petco Park in the stands, but a few fans the row above me did. And I didn't think he was going to get to the wall, and then it did, and he doubles. That was a great kind of end to his night there. He popped out to third in his last at bat, but this was the Will Myers game. He drives in 2 runs, 3 hits on the night. He'd been really struggling. He's one of those guys like Hosmer. I'll talk about this later a little bit, but that was the big takeaways from this series. Going into the Dodger series, you really want, your offense clicking, right? And Hosmer and Myers were the opposite of clicking, as of late. Hosmer grounds out all the time. Myers was kind of striking out more often than he did it, definitely since last year. And, kind of at the start of this year, more strikeouts, more pop outs but it was really great to see him, get rolling, get going, because they're going to need it, like I said, against the Dodgers. And when Will Myers is going good, the offense is going good because he makes it that much deeper. When he's hitting 6th or 7th or He was hitting sixth on, Friday. When your sixth hitter hits two homers, and you have Pham, Tatis, and Grisham, and Machado, and Hosmer, and the front five like that, you got to feel pretty good about your chances. And you had Cronenworth, who was hitting third a lot this season. He's hitting behind him. Then you have Caratini, who's been great, filling in for an injured Nola essentially the entire first part of this year. So it's a really deep lineup, especially when a guy right in the middle of it, the middle third of that lineup like Myers gets going. And that was the story. I did want to touch on Chris Paddock. He was truly tremendous. Chris Paddock, obviously, I've kind of banged this drum ever since he came off the COVID IL when he got sick in Arizona. He's pitched really well. I've always been obviously a Chris Paddock fan. You can see on my Instagram, a picture I had of him where we look identical. Some Padre fans have mistaken me as Chris Paddock's son, but I've been always a supporter of this guy. I believed in the guy, but these last 2 years or so, it's been painful to watch because 2019 he really pitched like an ace. He really pitched like a guy that could be at the top of the rotation for years to come in the middle of this pennant race, right in the middle of the Padres window of contention. Obviously, before they got Darvish and Snell and Musgrove, before Weathers came up, when they still had Lucchesi and they were still rebuilding, but they had Machado. You could still start seeing guys. You could start seeing the Padres, improve, get better. It was Tatis's rookie year. Things started coming up on the come up. They looked better, and Paddock was definitely the highlight of that. But 2020, he struggled. He lost his confidence. He wasn't confident at the beginning of the season either. If you watched his starts, he wasn't using the fastball aggressively up in the zone like he did in 2019. To be honest, I do think that, you'd think it would be used as motivation, but I do think that Tingler not going to him in the NLDS in game 3, obviously Clevenger was out, Lamet was out, and instead going to a bullpen game, instead of going to Paddock, who was the opening day starter that year, I think that definitely it got to him, I think. I think that's safe to say. I don't want to speak for him. I haven't talked to him. I don't know. Maybe that's a good question for the media to ask. But I think that did get to him in some way. And maybe that's the reason why he hasn't, done that. But the comment hasn't been as good, at least the whole season. But his talk with his brother Michael over FaceTime when he was on the IL, I think that really, made him say, you know what, forget what anyone thinks about me. I'm going to be confident. I'm going to say I'm better than you. I'm going to think I'm better than you. I don't care who's at the plate. It could be Nick Castellanos, Jesse Winker, two of the best hitters in the NL this year. It could be a Mookie Betts. It could be whoever, but for him to have confidence like that and to forget the whole sheriff thing, just to be, I'm Chris Paddock and I'm going to get you out. I think that's really been great. And he's been great for the Padres, 87 pitches, 5 innings, 11 strikeouts, a season high. He only walked 1, 2 runs. So his command was under control. He was using the fastball. He was using the curveball more, which is a great sign. So that's pretty much all I have to say about Paddock. He's just been really good. And if he can continue to do this, that makes kind of like Myers with the lineup, how it makes that deeper, and Hosmer with the lineup, how it makes it deeper. If Paddock can pitch like this, that makes the rotation deeper. And hopefully Snell can turn it around as well. He pitches Wednesday probably after Darvish, or Tuesday, after Darvish pitches Monday. But just a great game all around on Friday. Padres improved to 40-32, their 40th win of the season, their second win in a row. And then, so that gave them some momentum again going into Saturday. And Saturday, it started off weird. Joey Votto gets ejected after the umpire correctly called a check swing, or he went. Votto didn't think he went. He got mad at the third base umpire. Then he turned around to the home plate umpire and, pretty much went off at him. This was all before, obviously, the Padres win. Did I say the Friday score? They won 8-2 on Friday. Saturday, they win 7-5. that Votto ejection, man. Posted on the Talking Friars Twitter. It was one of those things where it's like, if this isn't entertaining, I don't know what is. He went at him. He didn't want to go away. He didn't care if his coaches were holding him back. He didn't care if his manager, David Bell, was giving him an earful, the umpire an earful. But he went at him, and he got his money worth, as people like to say. Ejected in the first inning, and I'm sorry, you can't convince me that that didn't hurt the Reds. One at bat in the game. He's in the middle of the lineup. He's a future Hall of Famer, probably. He's definitely on the ballot. And so to not have him in the game the rest of the, in the lineup the rest of the game, that definitely hurt them. And that worked to the Padres' advantage. Tatis that was pretty much the story of this game. Tried diving for a ball through the 5-5 hole. And he rolled over his left shoulder. And it was the same shoulder that he did on the swing against the Giants earlier the year with the subluxation, and he couldn't move it. The good news here is when he walked off the field, it was the 5th inning, he could kind of move his arm. He was moving his arm, and so that was good news, at least for the people watching the game and Padres fans. Tingler said he was day-to-day after the game, and he did not play Sunday, but he's expected to play the Dodgers series, which is coming up. I'll preview that in a little bit. But that was the story of the game, Tatis coming out. And then it went from Tatis coming out, oh no, to holy cow. Tatis's replacement wins the game. Ha-Seong Kim batting second. That when Tatis came out and Kim was batting second, I was kind of like, whoa, that's a pretty big hole, at the top of the lineup. Ha-Seong Kim's not known for hitting. He's known for defense, not hitting. So to put him in the 2-hole, it seems like an out, maybe a double play situation if Pham got on. It just didn't look great for Kim to be, you'd like it to be a double switch or something, but when Tatis comes out in the middle of the game, you have no really choice. You have to put Kim in the second spot. And so that's exactly what happened. But he comes through with the tie game, 8th inning, big 2-run homer to make it 7-5. Hit right into the Western Metal. A door was open and it actually went into the Western Metal. The only question was if it was going to stay fair, and it did. Kim's 4th home run of the season. I know he hit one in Arizona. I'm blanking on the other two, but on the Cincinnati one. But just a great moment. Kim's signature moment. We have signature moments all over the place this weekend. Caratini with one on Thursday. Kim obviously won on Saturday, and Myers had 2 great games, which we'll get to his second great game on Sunday. But just a great win, 7-5. That was their 41st win of the year, their 3rd win in a row, guaranteed a series win, and that was exactly what they needed going into the Dodgers series, because you don't want to have the opposite of momentum going into a series at home. Your full crowd, and when you don't have momentum going into a series against the Dodgers, it's not really great news. So this was great news. Let's see. But the bullpen stepped up. They come Tim Hill, Stammen, Pagan, Adams. They all combined to have a shutout out of the bullpen. Excuse me, that was Sunday's game. Sorry. But no, this was a great game by the bullpen. Daniel Camarena came in, went to Cathedral. Miguel Diaz started the game. So there was a lot of, Chris Matt pissed. Tingler said he was the MVP. It was a great all-around game. The lesser bullpen names stepped up. Obviously, Daniel Camarena with the MLB debut pitched well. I think he allowed 1 run. But yeah, he pitched really well. It was great to see him, in a Padre uniform like that. You love those stories with hometown kids doing that. Like a guy at Helix, Jack Stronach, he went to my high school, Helix, and he's in the Padres system. So if he ever makes the big leagues, that's another big story Musgrove obviously going to Grossmont, my rival high school, has the no-hitter. He's probably going to be an all-star this year. Just a great, great story for him. And then there's other guys like Alex Dickerson with the Giants, just guys that come out of San Diego. You can't really do anything but root for them unless they're playing the Padres. But anyway, great story with Daniel Camarena pitching. Padres win 7-5. Like I said, their 41st win of the year, and they'd go for the sweep Sunday and they'd get it, 3-2 win. There's a lot of things that came out of this game that I don't know if they'll be talked about. But the big story here, Will Myers comes up big with the big 2-run triple. What inning was that in? Let's see, I believe it was the third. Yeah, in the third inning, Will Myers comes up, 2 RBI triple, scores on Votto's error. That was the only 3 runs of the game. And Will Myers, obviously I touched on it earlier. This was a great comeback kind of series, comeback weekend for him. He's been struggling, but it lengthens the lineup when he hits like he's been doing in the middle of that lineup, kind of flings the bat out. It barely drops in, but that's good enough. The Petco Park Padres scorekeeper initially ruled it a double, but I was scoring and it was like, why is that a double? It's a triple. That didn't make sense for it to be a double when he was head first diving to third, and Votto was the one that made a bad throw to third, and that allowed Myers to score. So it was a triple with an error. Annie Heilbrunn, Braden Suprenant on the radio post game said it was a Little League homer, but I get that he went all the way on the bases, but it wasn't a homer because he didn't hit a home run. It was a triple. But other than that, those are the 3 runs. A couple big spots in this game. I do want to get to Machado, the not hustling thing in the first, but couple big spots. A huge inning double play in the 7th with the bases loaded for Stammen. Then in the 8th, Pagan made it interesting, gives up 2 runs, but then he gets out of it. Obviously, like I said, around the 2 runs, gets out of the jam with a runner on third, with the fly out to Myers and right. And then Melancon gets his 21st save of the year. He looked good to start, then threw some balls. The umpire wasn't really helping him. He walks India, puts the game tying run on first there, but then gets Winker to pop out to short on a great play by Kim in the outfield. He's been so good defensively for the Padres. So just a great win. But there was one thing, a big thing. I did want to get to Lamet first. Hang on. So Lamet gets the win, 81 pitches. I was surprised he only went 81. They built him up through 5 innings, his last couple starts. So I was surprised they only went 5 innings, especially with the Dodger series coming up. You don't know what you're going to get out of Snell. Who knows if Darvish struggles somehow. So I think saving the bullpen would have been better there. But he was great. This was the best I've seen him this year. 5 innings shutout, 7 strikeouts. He struck out 7 through the first 3 innings. He was just really, really good. Fastball was good. He was, commanding his pitches, attacking the strike zone. So great outing out of Lamet. Now to Manny Machado. First inning, ground ball to second. Jonathan India bobbles the ball. And so ground ball to second. Manny's kind of jogging like he does on any ground ball to the infield. And Jonathan India, Red second baseman, went to Florida. He bobbles the ball. And when Manny I was watching Manny run down the line. When Manny saw India bobble it, you'd think, oh, now let me sprint. Let me start sprinting so I'll beat it out, right? It's early in the game. You want to get as many runs as you can, definitely early in the game. And he didn't. He just kept jogging. And he was out because India recovered, and he had time to throw Machado out because Machado kept jogging. And the fans booed him. And he deserved it. I actually liked that the fans did boo him because it shows accountability. It shows that we're not in 2019 anymore, still rebuilding. And fans, want to win. They realize that any base runner that can get on will help. because the Padres can hit homers at times, right? You had your 3-hitter coming up. So I think Padre fans, they realize that, now that we're winning, now that we're contending, maybe that's the difference in a game. And so when you're going to, lollygag it down to second or down to first on a ground ball to second, and even when you see the guy bobble it, you keep jogging, that's just not a good look. It shows that it comes, I know that Manny cares. We've seen this year that he cares. We've seen, when he played through injury against the Dodgers, that one Friday night game at Petco, when he scored the game tying run to push it to extras, they end up losing in 12, blah, blah, blah. But we've seen Manny hustle. I'm not trying to say that Manny doesn't hustle. He stretched a single into a double on Saturday. So he hustles, but this was a time he didn't hustle. And I think that this is a time that he needs to be called out for it. I don't even want to, here's the thing. I don't even want to bring up that he makes $300 million. And if you're making that much money, you need to hustle every single time. I'm not saying you have to hustle every time. That's not, I'm expecting you to, like Wayne Kirby, I think he said it to the Athletic one time a couple of years ago, maybe last year. He said, I expect you to give 70% down the line on a ground ball that that's probably going to be an out. So he's saying, I agree with him. I'm not saying that you have to sprint like Tatis did on every single ground ball his rookie year and pretty much in 2020 as well. Because, yeah, I do agree that. I think Emily, I forget who the person on Twitter was. I think her first name's Emily. She was trying to, she was saying on Twitter that, why would you want to risk injury in a first inning of a regular season game against the Reds? And my point is that, we're in contention now, and I get that he was jogging, right? I'm okay with him jogging. He wasn't giving 70%. I liked him to jog a little harder, give 70%, more than like 50% is what it seems like he's doing. But I'm okay with you jogging on a ground ball to second. But my problem was once Jonathan India bobbled the ball, he didn't start sprinting. That's where my problem is. So he sees that the ball was bobbled. He sees that he has a chance to make it to first and have a base runner on early in the game, which almost ended up being critical in the game because the Padres only won by 1. It almost was critical. And instead he said, no, I'm still going to just jog. That's just not a good look. It's not a good thing you want to have from your leader of your team. And I think that, in that inning, right, ground ball to second, doesn't hustle, gets out. That's the second out of the inning. Cronenworth walks. So if Machado, I'm very confident Machado would have beaten out if he started sprinting because he was 3/4 of the way down the line when India bobbled it, it seemed like. And so Cronenworth walks. Machado would have been in scoring position on second, and Hosmer singles up the middle the next at bat after Cronenworth. So Machado would have scored, and they would have led 1-0 after the first inning. Had Machado hustled, got to first, been in scoring position on the walk. And that almost would have been the difference in the game. If Joey Votto didn't make the throwing error on the Myers double in the third, Myers stays at third, Reds end up getting out of the inning. The game's tied in the 9th inning at 2 instead of the Padres having 3 runs. So, and then I'm pretty dang sure that people would be talking about Machado not hustling in the first on what would have ended up being a run had the game been 2-2 instead of 3-2. So I still want to point that out. Again, I'm not here to yell at Machado and say, oh, you need to hustle, give 100% on every single ground ball. That's not what I'm asking. What I'm asking is give 70% on a ground ball. I'm pretty sure you're not going to get hurt giving 70%. That whole thing about the argument, oh, you don't want to have him risk injury. I mean, come on. These guys, it's their job to hustle. It's their job to give it all out on the field, right? I mean, this is, again, it's not 2019. This is time that these runs, these games, they count. If the Padres want to win the division, I'm pretty sure that they're going to win. If they are going to win the division, it's going to be by single-digit games. So all these games matter. Giants and Dodgers aren't going away. So all of these games matter. Wild card positioning, all of these games matter. So again, it didn't bite the Padres in the butt, but I did want to point out Machado not hustling, and I did want to say that I hope that he gives a little bit more effort on those ground balls to the infield, those routine ground balls, because if someone does make an error, then he can beat it out. But when he's given, it seems like 50% down the line, and a guy makes an error, then you don't beat it out. And I'm pretty sure you're kicking your butt going back to the dugout, because knowing that if you hustle, maybe that game's changed. So just in the future, hopefully he, gives a little bit more effort. Again, I'm not here to bang him. But those were my thoughts on Machado. Not hustling in the first. But yeah, so Padres sweep. That was the game, 3-2. Melanson 21st save of the year. They win 3-2 there. They won 6-4 on Thursday, 8-2 on Friday, 7-5 on Saturday, and 3-2, like I just said, today, Sunday, at Petco Park, in front of a crowd that was amazing, by the way. A Sunday game, I go to Sunday games with season tickets. There's usually a lot of empty seats in the upper deck. And there were at the start of the game. I think some were late, but that was one of the loudest things I've ever heard. That's one of the loudest times I've ever heard Petco Park, in the ninth inning when Melanson was on the mound. Let's go Padres chants, just cheering, trying to get that final out. That's one of the loudest times I've ever heard that place. It seemed like a sold out crowd. I think there had to be over 40,000. The military's up in right field, and down the right field corner, up in the bleachers, way up in the third deck. It was just a great environment. And I just wanted to point that out. And that was a great preview in terms of the environment that we're going to see for the Dodgers series. It's going to be even better. Hopefully, I really hope that it's not like this past weekend with the Diamondbacks at Chase Field. If you didn't watch, look it up on YouTube. Walker Buehler pretty much throwing a no-hitter through 8, I believe, or into the 8th inning, something like that. If you look at the crowd, it literally was like Dodger Stadium. I could not see a Diamondback fan there. Now, the Diamondbacks suck, right? They've lost like over 20 straight road games. They're absolutely terrible this year. They fired their hitting coach. But for the Dodgers to have that, it literally was all blue, all Dodger blue. So hopefully that doesn't happen at Petco. I'm very confident it won't, because Padres are winning now. It was much easier. Dodger fans, we know Dodger fans, once, the Padres, it's been lopsided at least at Petco, it seems like these last 4 or 5 years, a long time. Obviously, when the Dodgers are racking up NL West titles, it wasn't really fun. Dodger fans, they can get annoying, they can get rude, they can get disrespectful, they can make it not very enjoyable to go to a game. But now that the Padres are winning, I think they've gotten a little bit quieter. I know they had the World Series last year, but I think they realize the Padres are for real, and the Padres might be better than them right now. I know the standings aren't, but considering that, Bellinger's hurt, Muncy's hurt, Padres have injuries too. But I think the point is they realize that the Padres are here. We're real, we're for real, and we're coming for them. So it's going to be a great series Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at Petco Park. Darvish on the mound Monday, I think Snell on Tuesday, and then it would be Musgrove's Wednesday. I'll go to that game. I believe all of them are at 7:10. The Wednesday, it's not a day game. That's how big this series is. It's going to be a night game. Padres have the off day Thursday before welcoming those really bad Diamondbacks to Petco. Long time, 10-game homestand. The middle 3 games of this homestand. I can't say I expect a series win. Obviously, that's what I hope for. But just looking at the pitching matchups, let's see if they have them up. Okay, so Darvish against Julio Urias. Padres should have a good chance of winning that. Urias is good, but Darvish is their ace. They're going to get Tatis back in the lineup Monday at 7:10. Good chance of winning that. Kershaw against probably Snell. on Tuesday. Probably the Dodgers win that one. I'm sorry. I know that Snell pitches great at Petco, but so has Kershaw in his career. Look up his numbers. They've been very good at Petco in his career. Obviously, those numbers are kind of biased or not as true, according to this year, because Kershaw at Petco has racked up a lot of wins against mediocre Padre teams that featured, players like Eric Ibar or Alexi Ramirez or Will Venable in the outfield, or who else? Will Myers at first base with Ryan Schimpf at second. So there's and Christian Villanueva at third and stuff like that. There's been a lot of wins for him that he hasn't been facing future Hall of Famers like they have in this lineup. He hasn't been facing All-Stars like they have in this lineup. So it's just a totally different environment. Tatis went yard off Kershaw twice at Dodger Stadium in the last matchup. So that's going to be another very entertaining matchup to watch. But I would just give the Dodgers Tuesday's game, just based on probably what the pitching matchup is. And then Bauer Musgrove, it seems like what it will be on Wednesday. Talk about a great pitching matchup, a must-watch matchup. Bauer, obviously a 2.45 ERA, so he's been good this year. Winning record. You can take with that what you will. But he pitched well at Petco Park against Blake Snell that Sunday game in April. But Bauer's one of those guys that I think you can get to him emotionally. He's obviously, when he gets going, he'll obviously have the sword celebration and do all that stuff. But I think that he can get a little overhyped and leave pitches over the middle. And so I think that the Padres can take advantage of that. Tatis definitely took advantage of that at Dodger Stadium earlier this year. Hit 2 homers off him. That was, remember, the peaking game where everyone thought Tatis was peaking, even though when he looked down, the signs weren't even out. So he wasn't even stealing the signs. He wasn't even stealing the location because the catcher hadn't moved to the outside part of the plate yet. And he takes a pitch like 2 feet, seemed like, off the plate, pulls it to left center for a second homer of the game. Padres took 3 out of 4 that weekend. It was an amazing series, and hopefully more of the same. I'm expecting that the Padres can win this series. Again, this Cincinnati series was absolutely huge. I'll get to the player of the series, who I think was the player of the series, here shortly. But I hope that the Padres can take 2 out of 3. That's my expectation going into the series, and it was great to get some momentum after getting swept, going 4-13 in their last 17, entering Cincinnati's series starting on last Thursday. So it's great momentum going into a series with the Dodgers. It's going to be competitive. It's going to be a really loud environment. That you have your 2 of your 3 top guys in the rotation going. I know Snell's in the top of the rotation, but he hasn't pitched like it. You have your 2 best starters going Monday, Wednesday, it seems like. So it was great, that momentum going in, and hopefully they can continue that momentum. Now, player of the series for this Red Series, I have Will Myers. He's absolutely phenomenal. 2 home runs and a double off the right field wall on Friday. On Sunday, obviously, with the big 2-run triple down the right field line, he ends up scoring. So 3 runs in that one play. Those were the 3 runs. If Myers didn't come through in that situation in the third, Padres would not have won that game. No Tatis, he stepped up huge. Myers stepped up huge. So I talked about it earlier. This was a great time for Hosmer and Myers to get some confidence going into the Dodger series, going into this week against 2 NL West rivals, Dodgers and D-backs. But Myers earns player of the series. And the fans were some of the MVPs of the series. Like I mentioned earlier, it was a great environment. It was great to have, pretty much packed crowds the entire weekend. And it was great to be back again. You didn't have to wear your mask. There's been a lot of times where, the opposing crowd comes in and invades Petco the last few years that, my family's had season tickets, and it was great to see a lot of brown and gold, see a bunch of swag chains, see the players dancing in the dugout during delays. Just seeing the crowd get super amped, and seeing on Thursday with Caratini with the walk-off and the crowd absolutely going nuts. That's what Petco Park's about. That's what baseball's about. That's what the city's about. And so that was just great that we have Padres competitive World Series contending baseball back. And they picked the right series to show up. I'm talking about the Padres as a whole because they had their fans back. And so, again, hopefully that continues. I know the fans will show up. There will be Dodger fans. I know that. I don't blame some fans for selling them, because of probably Dodger fans. They're willing to overpay by a lot. But if you're a fan out there listening, please don't sell your tickets. If you can, come out and support. This is going to be a great, great, great competitive series. And hopefully they can match the level that they matched at Petco Park earlier in the year when there's the extra inning game Friday, the Mookie Betts walk-off catch that prevented the game time run from scoring on Saturday, and then Pham and Hosmer coming through with those big clutch hits on Sunday to avoid the sweep. Those were all competitive games. Padres could have swept that series. Dodgers could have swept the series. So hopefully the games are still that close and the Padres come out on top this time, winning the series. One last thing though, next guest on the pod tomorrow, Matt Scraby, producer of Gwen and Chris on 97.3 The Fan. He has a great personality. Got in touch with him last week. He's coming on. That'll be out maybe in the morning before noon. Hopefully, great conversation with him. We'll preview the Dodger series a little bit more, talk about his relationship with Tony Gwynn Jr. and Chris Ello. Chris Ello obviously came on the podcast earlier. You can go through the episodes on Apple Podcasts or Spotify to find that. He was great, and I think Matt Scraby will be great as well. Jared Carabas from Barstool Sports, Starting 9 podcast, Section 10 podcast. He's like the face of MLB at Barstool Sports. He will join with what's supposed to be a very great conversation. I'm excited for that. That's Tuesday. That'll be uploaded maybe later in the day on Tuesday or on Wednesday. So a lot of content coming out this week. But that's it for me, Ben Fadden here. Ever have any mailbag questions, just hit us up on the Talking Fires accounts, Instagram, Twitter. You can hit me up at BenFadden3 on Instagram or Ben_Fadden on Twitter. Talking Fires, Twitter and Instagram preferred, though. We'll answer those mailbag questions on the next episode where me and Jacob are there as well. That'll probably be Wednesday after the Dodger series. So, again, until then, let's go Padres. And I very much thank you for listening. Stay tuned to the social medias for all the Padres content you need.